game is lame and absurd, but you spit. You need to sit back and observe a certified pimp.
He's so fly.
Oh yes he is.
I mean that boy, that's the shit.
He's a mess he is.
Fresh to death.
Ain't nobody fresh as he is.
They can't compare.
Won't get next to him
Because
he's so fly.
I mean the boy's so clean. From his white tee down to those jeans. You see the ice in the pinky ring. Gold gleam. And I got these haters looking so mean.
Part of what we're here for is to talk about the business itself. And today, I am really, really honored to bring up these three gentlemen to talk about the business. We've got three very accomplished writers in the room today to talk about the business of writing for television. And with no further ado, I see two of them in the back and one in the front right here. And I'm going to bring them up one at a time. Mr. Adam Wiesen, please. Wiesen, my bad pronunciation. Larry Legend Spivey. Give a round of applause. And finally, last and certainly not least, and if you've been walking around, you've been seeing his name probably on stuff and you didn't even know it, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Cohen. Check 1, 2. All right, so these three guys are the writing team, a portion of the writing team for the new hit television show Tales on BET. The show is produced by legendary music producer and now television and film impresario Irv Gotti, and who has made so many people famous, so many stars. And now these three gentlemen are in the driver's seat, making sure that we get high quality content. So let's kick it off right away, and I'm going to just throw this question out to the three of you. What does it take to become a professional writer?
Patience.
Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen.
Patience. Good night.
Patience.
And hustle, hustle and patience, that's it, Talent is a part of it, you gotta have talent, but talent is like the minimal part of getting on. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff on TV that's not, I'm gonna just say it good, you know what I'm saying? But they knew how to hustle, they knew where to be, they built relationships. So it's relationships, hustle, and a lot of patience, because this game is really a hurry up and wait type of thing. Okay. You know what I'm saying? People think we're rich. We're not.
Right.
At all.
Right. Yeah, I haven't gotten invited to your mansion yet, so.
I can invite you to my 2-bedroom apartment.
Adam, how did you meet these guys, and how did you get into the writing scene?
So, I've known Patrick for about 20 years, through, of all things, the slam poetry scene in Brooklyn.
Okay.
He used to host at a location called the Brooklyn Moon.
Poet, and we didn't even know it.
And at one point during our friendship, he said, I really want to try my hand at putting some independent, web series together, some TV style stuff, and I bullied my way into it because he's an auteur of the First Order, and is definitely concerned first and foremost with crafting projects in his image. And we've been working together since. Larry joined up with us. Larry's had hustle for years, and we just were on a collision course in the New York sort of independent media scene, and we've just been working together since. And a lot of this is a matter of like good fortune, but it's also like, how did they say it? It's like you can work 20 years to be an overnight sensation. We've just been hustling and grinding it out for a very long time. We're in the right place at the right time. Larry nailed it. There's a lot of talent is good. Talent is great. Don't sleep on your talent. Don't don't leave it to just sit there. But it's also a lot of hustling, having thick skin, being patient, being able to take criticism. Everybody you work with is not an artist. There's a lot of very sort of like cold mechanical decisions when it comes to like editing what you've written. And if you can't take criticism well or make it impersonal, you are not built for this.
It's wise words. Patrick, tell us about the process, because I know that you're a writer, and I've read many of your works. But once you have an idea, tell me about the process as an individual writer, and then how do you work with other writers, and how does that whole thing work? You know, when you're a writer, how do you write with 3 other people? How does that work?
So when I write by myself, everything I write is brilliant. Truly brilliant. And then I give it to these 2 guys, and they just rip it to shreds. And I'm a good writer. I'm a better director than I'm a writer, but I'm a better writer than most. These 2 guys they're pure writers, and they write better than me. But together, because we all have massive egos, each one of us wants to be the best. So when we get a script, we'll pass it amongst ourselves, and we're like, that doesn't work. That's stupid. That sucks. Until one of us gets
Oh, you're a genius.
you get the genius line. What that means is the other 2 can't top that line. And then we go on from there. And it works for us because our egos are so big that we want the best thing to be out there with our name on it. So we're willing to have somebody else who comes up with the best line or the best idea. We'll all work on that together, because we know all of our names are going to be on it, and everybody's going to look at it and say, oh, these 3 guys are geniuses. And that's how we work together.
Okay, and that's fair. And I want to get back to this a little bit later, but you mentioned something about starting out, Adam, you said about independent media content and such, and then moving into more television-like stuff. The transition from being in your room or office or wherever in your writing space and you're just writing ideas down to actually produced work. The name of this panel is From Script to Screen. How did you, when you first started, get from the script out of your mind onto the page, and then next thing you know, onto the screen? How did you do that?
Well, the first big thing I did, indie thing I did was, for my MFA, I did a feature film, because most people for their MFA projects do shorts. When I did my MFA, I was 40. So I wasn't going to do a short film so somebody could say, I like your short film, come be a PA for me. Because I already had 2 mortgages. So I couldn't PA for anybody and pay my bills. So I said, let me do a feature, and hopefully that'll make an impact, and somebody will say, I'll pay you to do something else. And Adam was in films. We both decided to go to film school because the first projects we did, there was something wrong with them, but we didn't know exactly what was wrong with them. When I look at them now, I know one of the things wrong with them was that my characters had 6 feet of headroom, and that's like not good. So Adam and I wrote a feature, and we did a Kickstarter campaign, and we raised about $45,000 for it, and then I went to my 401k and put in another $45,000, and we shot and edited a feature film called Shanklin's Deli, and that's how we did it. And a lot of people will tell you don't ever put your money into a film project because you're not going to get your money back from it. But what you have to realize is that putting your money into your own film project is an investment, a long-term investment, because people will see it and say, okay, I want to see something more that this person has done. So I'm willing to put up money to see what else they can do. And you keep doing that till you get to a point where somebody says, okay, let me give them a real budget and see what they can do with that. You know, and what happened with us in terms of getting on TV was, I had a friend who was, because a lot of this business is about relationships. I had a friend who at the time was the chief editor for the Source magazine, back when the Source magazine was saying something. And he introduced me to Ja Rule's manager. And Ja Rule's manager introduced me to Irv Gotti. And Irv had an idea for a TV show. And I brought Adam in, and Adam and I wrote the pilot for the TV show that was sold to HBO. And HBO shafted us, gave us a little check and told us go about our business because they weren't going to let us do the show. But the check cleared. And one of the things you learn in this business as a writer is the most important thing is a check clearing. It's not your integrity. It's not your artistic vision. It's whether the check clears or not, because that means you can live to write another day. And from that point on, we were professional writers, and Irv came back like 9 years later and said, yo, I'm doing a show called Tales, and I want you guys to be my writers, da-da-da-da, and now we're getting ready to start the third season.
Amen. Right on.
Just so you know, when we went about shooting a short feature, there are no promises built into that your effort, that your monumental drive is going to pay off. I mean, we still have Shankman's, and we did it, and we were amazed that we did it, but it didn't set off any like fire alarms in studios or anything. Like, people weren't. You have to be able to take that hit to your ego. You have to, and your pocket, because none of that is easy. You can be. People you see now just getting on, you may see them on TV and be like, you're like 48 years old. Like, how are you just getting on? It was an effort to get there. And if you have the patience and you can take that long haul and you can take the hits that come with it, it may pay off. The Shankman's, the feature we did, was amazing because it was completely our creative vision. We didn't have to answer to anybody except ourselves. We could argue with each other. It was a genuine, work of love. When you're writing for someone else, it is an entirely different ballgame. You are crafting a product, and whether it is on a factory floor or in a writer's room, you are going to be hearing from people who you think have no business telling you what to do. You are going to hear from people that you know you are smarter than, telling you how stupid you are for writing this way. You will hear the most derivative ideas that you have ever heard in your life. Like, hey, do you remember that scene in Narcos? Make a movie about that scene, that 5-minute scene. Can you extend that out 2 hours? Excellent, here's money. You have to be ready to hear the most ridiculous, ludicrous stuff and smile in its face and say, okay, let's see what we can craft from that. And that's really the process that differs from when you're in the independent world. You got to be able to say, okay, let's take your vision and let's make something really good out of it, no matter how ridiculous it is. But that's something that I don't think any writer is really prepared for, or any creator is really prepared for when they start working, like regularly, is getting the criticism from people who are in offices, getting the criticism from producers, making last-minute changes, getting rewritten on the set when you spent like weeks working on this thing and somebody's like, no, that line doesn't work, cut it, or let's change it right here to something that I came up with 5 minutes ago. There's a lot of that, and you have to be able to take that and say, you know what, the check cleared. Adam and Larry had to talk me out of quitting at least
twice, like every week, because somebody has said something. I'm just like, I can't do this. They're like, dude, it's okay, it's okay. But it's all about, part of being a professional writer is being able to write other people's ideas. And you do that till you get to the point where somebody says, what do you want to do? And then you put yourself in a position where you have the power to make sure your vision comes forth the way that you want it to come forth. And that's what we're striving to get to now.
Thank you. It's great answers. I heard a theme that I want to touch on real quick. You spoke about the self-start, the hustle, the grind, all of these terms that define the spirit of entrepreneurialism. Make the correlation for our audience between what you're doing and, let's say, what the local bodega store owner is doing, and how starting a business can be difficult, demanding, overwhelming, etc.
I mean, that in a nutshell is, with any business, you're gonna hear 1,000 no's, but that one yes can change your life. That's basically what you're striving for. Like, it's all about, like what Adam said, you gotta have a thick skin. You know, my first film I ever did, or web series I ever did, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. You know, my family, my friends, they was like, when's the next one come out? Whatever. Shut up. But this before I even met them, I let a professional see it, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm about to get a deal. It's about to be crazy. They literally wrote me back and said, I wouldn't pay $5 to see this. I said, yo, I got to go back to the drawing board. You have to be able to kind of take that kind of criticism and say, I'm going to go and make myself better. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with any business. You know, no business succeeds its first time out. You know, a first-time business owner doesn't become a millionaire with their first idea. So it's just like, you can't give up. You got to have a hard skin. That's what I think. That's what the correlation is as far as being an entrepreneur is in this filmmaking business. You have to be able to endure the 1,000 no's you're going to get till you get that one yes that could possibly change your life.
And it's really interesting that he talked about his first project, because what he did was he found out it sucked, but he believed in his talent enough to, it did suck. It did suck. It sucked. He believed in himself and his talent enough to go back to the drawing board and do it again. And in this business, you have to believe in your talent. You have to believe that you have something that is worthy. Because at the end, it's all product. Is your product better than the next person's? And that's what it is. And then you get to a point where his product is Adidas, his is Nikes, mine is Under Armour. It's of the same quality, but now it's just who likes what. But you gotta get to a point where yours is top quality. And the only way you get there is by grinding. And it's grinding on so many different levels. It's grinding on learning your craft and perfecting your craft. It's grinding on getting out there and making the connections, making the relationships that give you the opportunity to have your craft shown. It's grinding so that you get to the point where people believe in you enough to get on board with you and be part of your team, so you can take your stuff from script to screen.
And I gotta, just to add to that, just so you know, just once you get your foot in the door, if you're writing, I mean, we think of ourselves as, I mean, look, we have a legit agent, we've got a lawyer, like all the mechanisms are in place where you could say, oh, we're on. We got people. We have people now. We still have to go out there and hustle. We still have to go out there and put our names out there. We got day jobs still. You know, we get paid. We're members of the Writers Guild. There's only a couple thousand of us. amazing. We were just saying, it's amazing that we even got in there. But you got to keep pushing. It doesn't stop. We know writers who've been doing this literally for decades and we're still hustling. You still got to get your name out. There's always someone coming up behind you with better product, or product at least as good as yours. You just got to keep striving. It doesn't stop once you get in. You know, there are a million people out there with amazing ideas. You're competing with them. And you're also competing with your own ego and your own stamina. Can you run the long race? Can you keep doing this when you're in your 50s, your 60s? You got to think about that when you commit to it. You know, right now you can work a job and have a pension. Very few writers have that liquidity or flexibility. And you see them at Writers Guild events all the time. It's like, you know, the dudes who are still like, oh, well, I'm collecting residuals and royalties from like the 80s and Social Security checks. You got to be ready for that too. Not everybody's going to be, you know, a big, bright, shining star. And that's not to shoot anybody down. It's just, you got to be aware. It's not you get put on and then suddenly we're all on the Upper West Side, sipping Mai Tais, taking flights out to LA every week. That would be lovely. Hopefully we get there someday. You can all visit us. But it's work. Even when you're on, it's still work.
Before I say my next statement, my first series was dope. But being a writer doesn't mean just sitting in a house either and writing all day. You have to go out and make these relationships. I mean, I knew Patrick prior to being on Tales, but initially I got on Tales because I'm going to go to these events, I'm going to meet people, I'm going to go to Urban World, I'm going to fly to Miami and go to ABFF, and ABFF is where I saw Irv Gotti.
American Black Film Festival.
Yes.
One of the most.
And I just ran up on him, like, look, da-da-da, we just had a conversation, he was telling me about Tales, and I said, oh, you know, my guy writes on that show. And he literally said, oh, I'm going to call and check to see, I'm going to check up on you. And I took it like, yeah, right. But just in case, Patrick Irv is about to call you, tell him I'm dope. You know, and then I get back home, I don't hear from him for 6 months. So that don't mean like, oh, I'm still grinding, but amazingly enough, he called me 6 months later and said, look, I need you to write this, that, and the third, and I'm on. So it's just like, don't think you're gonna write your script and just send it out and somebody's gonna read it and it's just gonna be like, this is the greatest script I've ever wrote, and if I send this out, when they read it, the phones is gonna start ringing. No, you know, you have to go and be in people's faces. You gotta be annoying. I'm very annoying. Yeah, thank you. I'm very annoying. I'm annoying to the point where, all right, yes, let's see what you can do. And then once he says, let's see what you can do, I know my worth. You just got to prove yourself. And that's it. That's it for me.
Right on. I think we have time for a couple of quick questions. Anybody have any questions for these gentlemen up here? Okay, hold on.
Thank you. I was just wondering, like, you're sitting there writing something and then you see it being made, and I'd be sitting there like, that's not really how I imagined it.
Yeah,
you're right. You just gotta let it. You write the bird and you let the bird fly, right?
You're totally right. The first episode of Tales we wrote was a 2-hour season finale for the first season, and it came on, I think maybe the second scene. I was like, I didn't write that like that. That's not how it's supposed to happen. What's going? And I called Adam. I was just like, what did they do to our script? But what you have to realize is the check clear. And when you're writing for someone else, the most important thing is there's two things that are really, really important. The check clears, and they call you for another job, and that check clears. Because it's all about continuing to work until you get in the position where you're calling the shots.
Season 2 was different because we actually went down on set. So instead of seeing it on the TV going, we was on set going, come on, man. And then, you know, you make your suggestions, but the check cleared already, so they don't have to take anything that you say. So, you know, it wasn't too much of a surprise when we saw it this season. We was like, oh, we knew they was gonna do that. A lot of our oh, that's whack moments was on set. And yeah, oh, here it comes. Yeah, oh, here it comes.
We got one more question, guys.
Good evening. So
What's up with all the bass in your voice?
I don't got no more questions about those checks. About those checks.
thank you, first of all. My question is about the core values that you have as individuals. On the come up, it's hard to say no to certain projects, but at the same time, you don't want to be compromising yourself, your personal strengths and your beliefs. So how do you navigate that?
Now, I'll do this one. So, the most important thing is the check clears. But no, there's some things I wouldn't write. You're absolutely correct. There's some things I wouldn't write. And each individual writer has to find that line for themselves. And like I said, Adam will tell you, there was one time during season 2, I was curled up in a fetal position about something we had to write, and he had to talk me off the ledge. And we made it good. We found a way to make it good so that I didn't have to go like slit my wrist or anything. But you have to find that.